Our purpose is to build a holistic voice that creates a community of like-minded, healthy people for a healthier planet. Our goal is to unify the community, nourishing the growth in mind, body, spirit, awareness, and wellness. We want to engage our community and visitors so they have access to powerful momentum of the holistic presence in our community. We do this by creating awareness through interviews, providing education and awareness of cutting-edge modalities. We also provide access for consumers to quality natural health and wellness professional and practitioners and like-minded business that support this community. Thank you for listening with us on Healthy Planet One. Stay with us for the next interview with our next holistic guest.
Welcome. This month's focus is embracing your gift and growing your business. This opens up a multitude of doors, and we have invited 4 speakers to address this from their points of view. This week, we've invited Jackie Simmons is our guest, who she will be speaking about sales from the inside out. So welcome, Jackie. It's nice to have you with us.
Oh, thank you, Patricia. It's nice to be here.
Jackie and I go back a long ways, and it's very interesting because Jackie took over 30 years to figure out this system. She learned the hard way what most people call sales doesn't work for her, and as a result, she became an expert in sales from the inside out. And her book, Your Path from Secret to Success, became an Amazon International #1 bestseller. So, Jackie, I understand your clients experience amazing transformations and new opportunities arrive for them consistently as if by magic. So we want to hear all about that.
Well, I believe that sales is not something that you do to other people or even with or for other people. I think sales is something you do to, for, and with yourself. And when you can start selling yourself on yourself, and on your self-worth, it's a lot easier to have those conversations with other people. Partly because when you're coming from this place of owning your value in the marketplace and actually claiming that worth in the marketplace, people want to know what you're up to, and they find it very attractive. So when people talk about the law of attraction, I think this is where it starts.
So you did a book that says Your Path from Secret to Success. And I know you and I have talked about this before. A lot of people have great skills and ways of speaking, but you often find that they haven't come out of their cocoon, right?
Well, that's very true.
And tell us a little bit about how that has been for you and how you've gotten through that and what you offer for other people.
Well, what I discovered was that I was an expert hider. And that even though when I first started in sales, I would go out and I would knock on doors, and I found sales very, very difficult in the real world. It had been easy in junior achievement. In junior achievement, I could knock on doors and sell the product and tell the story of junior achievement, and everybody bought. Of course, I was selling to my mama and to her friends and people who knew me. I didn't know that when you go out into the real world, it's a little different. And I was never willing to tell my story until just recently. And that's part of what happened with writing the book, Your Path from Secret to Success, is a lot of the process. And it's actually a workbook. It is designed to actually take you step by step and hold your hand and walk with you every day, 7 days a week for 7 weeks. And a big part of that is connecting to your story, because when you connect to your story and you become willing to share it appropriately, other people connect to you. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think it's really fascinating because when you started talking about knocking on doors, my whole gut sort of went, eek, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to knock on anybody's door. And I'm sure that many people, that's why they stay a secret. They don't want to do that either. And they didn't even have the background you had with the junior achievement thing. There's really, that's a really big, is it a leap of faith, Jackie, or what is it that makes that difference?
It's a decision. It's a decision that, one, you're going to figure out the puzzle. That's where it started for me, is I was going to figure out this puzzle, because sales was easy in junior achievement, not easy in the real world, knocking on doors. And that's whether you're physically knocking on doors or picking up and doing cold calls, picking up a phone, or whether you're sending out emails or creating videos and putting them up on a YouTube channel. It's all knocking on doors.
Uh-huh.
And making the decision to figure out the puzzle for yourself is the first step. The second step is recognizing that the biggest mistake you can make as an entrepreneur, and let's face it, every professional practitioner, everyone who's in the field of making a difference in other people's lives, is an entrepreneur with great skills. And somehow, when I first got started, people forgot to tell me I was going to have to wrap a business around what I was good at. So I had missed the business training.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
understood getting it done because I became a single mom. And in that period of time as a single mom, I couldn't get a job that would pay enough for me to be able to pay daycare and rent. And at the end of the month, I needed to make some new decisions. So I became an entrepreneur. I didn't call it that back then. I just called it running a daycare out of my home. And I went through the certification process really quickly because I had kids to keep a roof over their head.
Well, it sounds like what you did is first of all, you embraced your gift or your gifts or whatever that was, because you knew what you could do. And then you started, and you said something about figuring out the puzzle just a bit ago. Was that figuring out who you wanted to market to, or how did you do that?
Well, the funny thing is, when I opened the daycare, I would go down to the bus stop with my kids, which I was doing anyway, and tell people about what I was doing and that I had openings. I didn't know that was called networking. Figuring these things out, figuring out the puzzle of becoming less than a secret in my current business required me to go back and look at what was it that worked, what was it that didn't, and why isn't anybody talking about this? Because you can have the perfect words, and I help people craft their elevator pitches all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can have the perfect words, but if you don't have the belief in yourself that you're the right person for the job, you're not going to speak up. And if you're not willing to speak up, it's really hard to stand out. And if you don't stand out, you're going to stay a secret.
Well, that's really interesting to know that your knowledge is sufficient, and that I think can be a big stopping point for people. Do you experience that with your clients?
Oh, absolutely. The vast majority of people think they need to get another certification. They need to get another piece of information. They need to get a little bit better. They're not quite ready yet. And heaven forbid they should pick up the phone and call someone because they might bother them.
Mm-hmm.
It might intrude on them. I know that's a big one for me, right?
Yeah. And that's just a story that we make up in our heads because it's not possible to bother other people. Other people can choose to be bothered or not bothered, but we don't have control over their emotions. But we think that we do. And it's that thinking that gets us into trouble.
Okay, so Kimberly has a question. Go for it.
Oh, okay. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Kimberly.
I love all your energy and enthusiasm. And after getting out of being in corporate, like taxation and auditing, that wasn't sales, but in some ways it was. But I listened to Brian Tracy, and a lot of things shifted. In fact, he brought out the importance of mindset, and like you said, belief, and all these things came into my vortex, so to speak. And when I went to sales school, they said it's more about your enthusiasm. And I always remembered this: facts tell and stories sell. So that became a little bit of an eye-opening for me when I was getting into sales.
Oh, it's a big deal. It is a very big deal. Most people are willing to tell you about the features. They'll even get into the benefits, but they won't tell you that they had a client who went from struggling to making ends meet to making as much money in a month as they had made the entire year before, because they don't want to brag, or they don't want, and it's all of these labels and stories that we're living, as opposed to the story we could be writing, the story we could be sharing.
Well, how about somebody's just getting started though, Jackie? They don't have that sort of story. So you're good with people building their story. What would you do for somebody like that?
They have stories. Don't get it confused, because a lot of people do that. They will say, "Oh, I'm just getting started. I don't have a story." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. You're getting started. That means you went through a certification program. Did you ever do a case study? You've got a story. Even if it didn't turn out the way that you thought it would, you've got a story.
Uh-huh.
Where did you start? What change did you see in yourself? You've got a story." And it was the willingness to tell that story is the change for me, because I was coming at life from the point of view of other people aren't interested in my story. And the truth is, we're interested in everybody's story. Look at what's popular on TV. We love stories. We love to be told stories. We are hardwired to learn from story. This was oral history. All of our history was in story form. Our legends, our myths, the timelessness of this. We've all got our stories. We just didn't know we had our stories. It's why at the 3-day event, we script your business, script your life. And it's all about getting in touch with your core 4 stories and working your way through that. Because when you can accept that your story is everybody else's story, you just didn't know it. As soon as you believe that, it becomes a lot easier.
Okay, what are you referring to as your core 4 stories?
The core 4 stories are really, what have you learned? What is your journey through work? What have you worked? What have you lived? What have you dreamed? And what have you loved? We each have a story in those 4 categories that's important to us. And so just getting in touch with those 4 storylines in your life gives you a solid framework to start connecting with other people. So I'll say that list again. It's what have you worked? What have you lived? What have you dreamed? And what have you loved?
And so the work that you do over those 3 days is you really get people to work that out and tease that out of their memory. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we get that done in the first day and use it to frame out a 45-minute signature talk for people, because that's becoming the go-to. You sort of have to be able to present 45 minutes on your topic, and knowing the stories that you're going to tell makes it so much easier to deliver content and to be entertaining.
Can you give us an example of one of your clients that they did that and what the breakthrough was for them?
Oh, absolutely. It happens in business all the time where people build up and then they plateau. And that's what had happened for my one client, and her name is Penny. She had built a significant organization. She was in a home party-based business, so she had a team of 600 people, and she had flattened out. It had kind of, she had people coming in and people going out, but she wasn't still in growth mode, and she didn't understand why. And during the 3 days, she got in touch with the stories that she had lived and that she was reliving. And they were the stories of where the other shoe had dropped, if you will, where things had been going along and then something happened. And because she had not realized these were the stories that were running her life, she didn't realize that she had created a self-fulfilling prophecy. So getting in touch with those 4 stories allowed her to start rewriting them. And so what happened? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
What happened for her is that the next month she went into her business with a different story of how these parties were going to work out, of how her team was going to grow. She had written a new story and she started living that new story, and her sales doubled. It was just so much fun to watch.
I love that. And this is all, I'm reminded of Joe Dispenza, that a belief is only a thought that you have many, many times. And what you're showing here is that when you rewrite and build evidence for a new story, you get the new results, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's the only thing that produces results. And, it's like, okay,